Phil, can you explain to us a little bit about the Casa da Videira and what you guys do here with the composting and the organic farming?
So Casa da Videira is an experimental station for small rural properties, and what we do is we have demonstration sites for different activities that small rural property owners can implement on their farms. And our objective is to diversify the production as much as possible, which means to produce a little bit of many different things rather than have just produce one thing on a huge scale. And we use methods that are both environmentally and economically sustainable. And we use a lot of what we call agroecological methods for both producing vegetables as well as raising animals for meat production and milk production. So we try to raise the animals as naturally as possible, but in a manner that is that we can be economically sustainable. So yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about the compost?
So one of our biggest focuses here at Casa da Videira is composting our waste. So here we have a warm compost, or what we call here a living trash can. And the way this works is in these boxes we have red Californian worms, and here we deposit all our organic waste, so anything from food scraps. And so the organic material or organic waste that we put in here gets eaten by the worms. And the worms help in the decomposition process, and eventually all this organic material will turn into humus, which is worm poop, and is a really good natural fertilizer which we use in our garden. So after 45 to 60 days, the worms that are in these boxes will turn the organic waste into humus.
And there's something with the nitrogen and the carbon cycle here?
Yeah, so in order for the decomposition process to work, we need to have a balance between carbon and nitrogen. So the food that we put here is mostly nitrogen, has much more nitrogen in it than carbon. So we add dry organic matter that is brown, such as leaves or dry grass or hay, or you can even use paper, in order to add the carbon and create the balance between carbon and nitrogen in order for the composting process to work.
Cool. And how about the horta here? Can you tell me a little bit about what the process here? You kind of have a very innovative way of growing, non-traditionally, and we'd like to do this at our school. So this is the horta mandala, right?
Yep.
Maybe explain to us how you do this.
So here we built container sponges, or in English sponge beds, which the way it works is first.
Yeah, we can see that over there. You're starting one over there, right?
Yeah.
Let's check that out over there. So,
first we add a layer of sticks, and then we add a layer of grimpas, which come from the pinheiro trees, and then we add a layer of leaves, and then on top of that we add some manure as fertilizer, and then finally we add a thin layer of soil, on which we plant the seedlings.
And that's why do you use this method? Why do you have the branches on the bottom, and what's the advantage to that?
This method reduces the amount of irrigation a lot, because the sticks and all the organic matter that we added, such as the grimpas and the leaves, will absorb water. So when it rains, all that water will get absorbed into the sticks rather than being washed away, and the sticks will slowly release the water and nutrients with it. So you don't have to irrigate as often, because there will be a slow release of water. And in addition to that, the sticks and all the organic matter under will slowly decompose, and after about 6 months, that organic matter will turn into fertilizer. So you don't have to add more fertilizer to your bed.
And you just keep growing on top, maybe mixing in some more manure, some estiércol.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And can you also show us the horta over here, that the pigs, do you have some sort of process with your pigs turning over the soil and digging up, preparing your beds here? I think that's pretty innovative too. Where did they come up with these ideas, do you know?
Well, it's really widely used in people that practice permaculture and agroecology. I don't know where they got it from specifically, but people have been using animal integration for a long time. And if you look at nature is an integration between animal and plants. So basically what we do is observe what happens in nature and try to imitate that to produce our food. So what we have here is an integration between the pigs that we raise outside and our plant production, our garden. So what happens here is, before we build a bed to plant on, we put the pigs in an area which we surround with an electric fence, so it's easy to move them around and determine what space they're going to be in. And then what the pigs will do is they'll get a green area like the one in the back there, and after a couple weeks they'll eat everything that's green and it'll become bare soil like you can see here. And after that, if you leave them for a little longer time, they'll start turning over the soil and make it really soft like it is here. And so the objective is to have the pigs do the work for us, to save us work with having to turn over the soil and clean the grass, take out the grass so that we can plant on it, as well as give the pigs a natural food, because pigs love eating anything that's green as well as roots. So they'll use their noses to dig up the soil and eat the roots that are underneath the ground, and through that process they're releasing the soil so that it makes it easier for us to then later go ahead and just build the beds. And in addition to that, their poop is very good fertilizer, so they're also fertilizing the soil for us.
So all these beds over here, at one time was an area that you had pigs in, huh?
Yes.
And then, okay, and you didn't have to put the sticks on the bottom here, or did you put the sticks in these?
So this was a different method. In this garden, we didn't use the canteiro esponja. In this one, we simply dug up the spaces between the beds in order to form the area of the beds. But since it was already fertilized with the pig poop, we didn't have to add more organic matter like we did with the canteiro esponja.
And this is a lot of work out here. How many of you guys are working? You know, are you looking for volunteers to maybe help you with some of the work?
Yeah, so there's 5 of us that live here full time, but we have volunteers come all the time, come and go. Some stay a day, some stay a weekend, some stay a week. And all the volunteers really help us out with the projects we have, the projects that we're starting or that we're have to keep up, such as the garden. But we actually depend a lot on the help of volunteers that are always coming to learn and also help.
And it's an NGO, so it's a non-profit. So you guys also need financially some help as well. But future-wise, it should be self-sustaining.
Yeah, yeah. Our objective is to become economically sustainable by December, so that we can be economically sustainable from our vegetable and meat production.
Okay, and you're planning a new project with chickens, right?
Yeah.
What's that all about?
So our next the next project we're going to implement is raising chickens. So our idea is we're going to start with 200 chickens that we're going to buy as small chicks. We're going to put them in a chick nursing room to start off with, and once they get big enough, we're going to move them to an outside area to raise them on the pasture. But for that, we're going to have to build a chicken coop for them and also make an area for them just like the pigs have.
And they're going to feed off the worm beds. You have some bigger project with worm composting?
Yeah, so we have a huge wall compost that's also a worm compost, where we put boxes of animal manure, pigs, goat manure, and rabbit manure, and we put worms in the boxes, so the worms will turn that poop into humus, and they will also reproduce. If you have a couple worms, 2 worms in a year will produce 22,000 worms, so they produce very fast. So our idea is that the worms we're going to feed the manure to the worms, which manure is usually considered waste. So we're going to take our waste from our animals, feed it to the worms that are in these boxes. The worms are going to eat the manure and produce humus, which we're going to use for our garden. And then once we have a lot of worms, we're going to take those worms and feed them to the chickens, because they're a very good source of protein. So basically, we're feeding our animals with the animal poop and feeding ourselves with the fertilizer from the animal poop. So that's how we close the cycle.
It's a one big cycle. Very cool. Okay, and and so the whole project here is all about sustainability. And what's really cool is this local area. There's a lot of people that have been farming monocrops and mostly tobacco, and there's a high indice of children having birth defects and being sick because of all the chemicals that are involved in this kind of farming. And these guys at the Casa da Videira, they're trying to teach these families newer, better methods for farming that are healthier for them and healthier for the people that they sell the food to. And that's where the relational food program comes from. It's part of this whole project, where they have the local small farm families come and bring their produce, and they sell their produce to people like us teachers at the international school. And so we're supporting them by buying the cestas, the food baskets. And
so rather than go to other farms and tell them, try to teach them how to farm, which is the conventional way of agricultural extension, we prefer to practice different alternative methods here and inspire other farmers to do the same and do it better and improve what they see. So we have local farmers and even just people from the area come around a lot, and they really like what they see, because a lot of people never saw this kind of thing before, such as animal integration or agroecological beds. And so they really get interested with what they see, and through this relation we teach them, they help us, and we inspire them to try to practice a more environmentally correct way of farming.
Cool. Thanks, Phil, for doing that interview.
You're welcome.